The story begins when King Nebuchadnezzar erected a massive golden statue and commanded all his subjects to worship it. However, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, devout followers of the one true God, refused to bow down to the idol. Their unwavering faith and commitment to God's commandments led them to defy the king's orders. Enraged by their disobedience, King Nebuchadnezzar had the three men brought before him and threatened to throw them into a fiery furnace as punishment. Even in the face of this terrifying prospect, the three men remained resolute in their faith, stating that they believed God would save them. But even if he did not, they would still not worship the golden idol. The king ordered the furnace to be heated to its maximum, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were cast into the flames, bound in their clothes. Yet a miraculous event occurred. King Nebuchadnezzar saw not 3 but 4 figures walking unharmed in the fiery furnace. Astonished, he called the men out of the fire, and they emerged untouched by the flames. Their bodies were untouched by the flames, their clothes were unscathed, and they didn't even smell of smoke. Nebuchadnezzar was awestruck and declared that the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was the one true God, worthy of reverence and worship. He decreed that anyone who spoke against their God would be punished. This astonishing event showcased the incredible power of faith and the protection of God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's steadfast faith not only saved their lives, but also led King Nebuchadnezzar to acknowledge the greatness of their God. It is a timeless story of unwavering devotion to one's beliefs, even in the face of extreme adversity, and the profound power of faith. The biblical account of Nebuchadnezzar seeing Jesus isn't explicitly mentioned in the Bible. Nebuchadnezzar was a prominent figure in the Old Testament, particularly in the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar has dreams and visions, including the famous dream of the giant statue in Daniel chapter 2 and his own transformation into a beast in Daniel chapter 4. However, there is no specific mention of Nebuchadnezzar seeing Jesus in the Bible. The encounters he had were primarily with the God of Israel rather than with Jesus, who is a central figure in the New Testament. There is a story in the book of Daniel in which Nebuchadnezzar has a profound encounter with God that may be interpreted metaphorically as an encounter with Jesus. This story is found in Daniel chapter 3, where Nebuchadnezzar commands the construction of a giant golden statue and demands that everyone bow down and worship it. However, 3 Jewish men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refuse to worship the statue, as they worship only the God of Israel. Furious, Nebuchadnezzar orders them to be thrown into a fiery furnace. But when they are cast into the flames, an extraordinary event occurs. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." Daniel 3:24-25, ESV. Nebuchadnezzar sees not 3 but 4 men in the fire, and the appearance of the 4th is described as being like a son of the gods or a son of God in some translations. This mysterious figure in the fire, often interpreted as an angelic or divine presence, could be seen as a prefiguration of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. While this passage doesn't explicitly state that Nebuchadnezzar saw Jesus, some Christians interpret this event as a foreshadowing or representation of the presence of Christ with his followers in times of trial and persecution. It's important to note that this interpretation is based on Christian theology and tradition rather than explicit biblical narrative. Nebuchadnezzar's dreams. The book of Daniel opens with Nebuchadnezzar besieging Jerusalem and taking some of the Israelites, including Daniel, into captivity in Babylon. In Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar has a disturbing dream about a colossal statue made of different materials, which none of his wise men can interpret. Upon hearing of this, Daniel, through God's revelation, interprets the dream, revealing it as a prophecy concerning the rise and fall of various kingdoms, including Nebuchadnezzar's own. Nebuchadnezzar is astounded by Daniel's interpretation and acknowledges the power of Daniel's God, Yahweh, as superior to his own gods. The fiery furnace. In Daniel chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar erects a golden image and commands all to worship it. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, three Jewish officials in his court, refuse to bow down, Nebuchadnezzar has them thrown into a fiery furnace. However, they are miraculously preserved from harm by God, and Nebuchadnezzar witnesses a fourth figure in the fire, whom he describes as a son of the gods. Nebuchadnezzar is amazed and acknowledges the power of the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, decreeing that anyone who speaks against their God will be punished. Nebuchadnezzar's pride and humiliation. In Daniel chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar has another dream, this time about a great tree that is cut down, representing his own downfall due to his pride. Daniel interprets the dream and warns Nebuchadnezzar to repent of his pride and arrogance. However, Nebuchadnezzar does not heed the warning, and as a result, he is humbled by God. For 7 years, Nebuchadnezzar is driven from his throne and lives like a wild animal, eating grass and dwelling outdoors. At the end of this time, Nebuchadnezzar acknowledges the sovereignty of the God of Israel and is restored to his kingdom, humbled and exalting God's greatness. Conclusion. While these narratives depict Nebuchadnezzar's encounters with the God of Israel and his acknowledgement of divine power, they do not involve him seeing Jesus. However, they serve as powerful examples of God's sovereignty over earthly rulers and the importance of humility before him. The book of Daniel portrays Nebuchadnezzar as a complex figure who learns important spiritual lessons through his interactions with God and his servants. King Nebuchadnezzar paced the opulent halls of his palace, troubled by a dream that had haunted him for nights. His counselors and wise men were baffled by its meaning, but he sensed it held significance beyond their understanding. One evening, as Nebuchadnezzar gazed out over the Babylonian cityscape, a figure appeared before him, a man unlike any he had ever seen. His eyes radiated compassion, and his presence exuded an otherworldly peace. "Who are you?" Nebuchadnezzar demanded, his voice trembling with awe. "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end," the man replied, his voice like thunder and yet as gentle as a whisper. Nebuchadnezzar fell to his knees, overcome by the magnitude of the presence before him. "Lord, forgive me," he cried. "I have worshipped idols and exalted myself above all others." The man extended his hand, lifting Nebuchadnezzar to his feet. "Rise, O king, for I have come not to condemn, but to save." As Nebuchadnezzar stood before the divine figure, he felt a weight lifted from his shoulders, a burden of pride and arrogance replaced by humility and awe. In that moment, he knew without a doubt that he was in the presence of the one true God. For days, Nebuchadnezzar conversed with the man who called himself Jesus, learning of his love for all humanity and his plan for redemption. With each passing moment, the king's heart softened and his spirit was transformed. When Nebuchadnezzar emerged from his encounter with Jesus, he was a changed man. No longer did he seek glory for himself, but instead, he sought to honor and serve the God who had revealed himself in such a miraculous way. From that day forward, Nebuchadnezzar ruled with wisdom and compassion, his kingdom a beacon of light in a darkened world. And though his encounter with Jesus remained a mystery to many, its impact echoed throughout the ages, a testament to the power of divine intervention and the transformative grace of God. Please subscribe my YouTube channel. I hope you like this video. Thank you.